The lecture hall of the Galactic Academy of Sciences buzzed with activity as students from 12 different star systems settled into their seats. The room was designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in anti-gravity, bubbles. Others perched on specialized stands. A few stretched their many limbs across specially designed couches. Professor Nix Valen entered the room. He walked on 6 thin legs that clicked against the polished floor. His blue skin shimmered under the lights, and his 6 eyes blinked in a wave-like pattern. The students quieted down as he reached the front of the room. Today, we begin our unit on Class 3 Developing Species, the professor announced. His voice came through the universal translators that each student wore. We will focus on one particular species that has recently caused quite a stir in the Galactic Council. He waved one of his 4 arms, and a holographic image of a blue and green planet appeared above his desk. Earth, he said, home to humans. A ripple of amusement spread through the class. Krell, a student from the technologically advanced Vex Collective, let out a buzzing laugh. His hard exoskeleton vibrated with each chuckle. Humans? The ones who still use combustion engines for planetary travel? The same, the professor replied calmly. Zara, a slender humanoid with silvery skin that reflected the thoughts of those around her, raised a delicate hand. Professor, my people made contact with humans 80 cycles ago. They were still arguing about whether faster-than-light travel was possible. By then, my ancestors had been using it for 10,000 years. More laughter filled the room. I heard they still fight wars over different belief systems, called out Drone, a bulky reptilian student with scales that changed color with his mood. Currently, they were bright orange with amusement. Professor Nixavalen waited for the laughter to die down. Your observations are not incorrect. However, the Galactic Council has recently made an interesting decision about humans. They have been banned from joining multi-species expeditions and research teams. This announcement brought a fresh wave of laughter, even louder than before. Was someone worried they might accidentally blow up a ship trying to light a fire? Krell asked, causing several students to bang their appendages on desks in appreciation of his joke. Only one student wasn't laughing. At the back of the room sat Vexor, another member of the Vex Collective. Unlike Krell, his exoskeleton was a dull gray instead of the usual shiny black. He had spent 1 educational season on Earth as part of a cultural exchange program. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat but remained silent. The ban, Professor Nixvalen continued, raising his voice slightly, was not implemented because humans are technologically primitive. It was implemented for other reasons, which will be the subject of your next research assignment. The laughter slowly faded as students noted the professor's serious tone. You will work in groups to research human military and scientific history of the past century. Each group will present their findings next week. Zara's reflective skin rippled with confusion. Professor, why study military history of such a primitive species? What could we possibly learn? The professor's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. That is precisely what you will discover through your research. As the professor assigned the groups, Vexor found himself partnered with Zara and Krell. He wasn't pleased. Krell was known for his arrogance, believing that the Vex Collective was superior to most species in the galaxy. After class, the 3 met at a floating table in the Academy's vast library. This assignment is a waste of time, Krell complained, his antennae twitching with irritation. We could be studying the quantum engineering of the ancient Arcturans instead of these primitive mammals. Zara nodded in agreement. My people have detailed records of human development. They went from first attempting powered flight to reaching their moon in just 66 cycles. Impressive for them, perhaps, but most species achieve this in half the time. Vexor finally spoke up. We should not underestimate them. Krell turned to him with surprise. You spent time on their world, didn't you? Were you impressed by their smoke-producing vehicles and their addiction to handheld electronic devices? Vexor's antennae lowered slightly. It wasn't their technology. That was notable. Then what was? Zara asked, genuine curiosity showing in her skin patterns. Before Vexor could answer, Krell interrupted. Let's just get this research done quickly. I suggest we start with their global conflicts. At least their wars might be entertaining, even if their science is boring. Zara agreed, and they used their access codes to pull up the Academy's archives on human history. A holographic display appeared above their table, showing timelines of Earth's major events. Look at this, Krell said, pointing to an entry. They called it World War II. They've had so many wars they had to number them. They began browsing through footage and data from Earth's conflicts. At first they viewed the material with detached academic interest, occasionally making jokes about the primitive weapons and tactics. Their weapons actually fire physical projectiles, Krell noted. How inefficient compared to plasma or energy weapons. As they continued their research, however, they noticed patterns that made them pause. Humans adapted with remarkable speed during conflicts. Their technology evolved rapidly under pressure, and most strangely, they sometimes used seemingly inferior technologies in unexpected ways that proved surprisingly effective. This is odd, Zara said after an hour of research. During this Cold War period, they developed nuclear weapons, space travel, and early computing all within a few decades. Vexor nodded. Now you begin to see. Krell was less impressed. Lucky accidents and desperate measures. Nothing that indicates true intelligence like my species. As they dug deeper, their research led them to a section of the archives marked with a red glow, indicating classified material requiring special permissions. Classified? Krell's antennae perked up with interest. What could possibly be classified about such a primitive species? Zara's skin rippled with curiosity. Perhaps there's more to this assignment than we thought. Should we request access? Vexor asked quietly. Krell's exoskeleton vibrated with excitement. Absolutely. I want to see what the Galactic Council is hiding about these humans. They approached a teaching assistant, a floating crystalline being named Ix, and explained their research needs. After checking their assignment parameters, Ix granted them access to the classified section. Be prepared, Ix warned, crystal facets, glowing with an odd light. What you're about to see might change your understanding of galactic species classifications. The three students exchanged glances. For the first time since the assignment began, none of them was laughing. Ix led them through a series of security checkpoints. Each one scanned their biological signatures and academic clearances. Finally, they reached a small viewing room with a curved wall that could display information from the archives. You have 4 hours of access, Ix said, crystal body glinting. The material is organized by incident classification. I suggest starting with first contact scenarios. After Ix left, Krell immediately accessed the controls. Let's see what's so special about these humans. The wall lit up with a directory of files. There were thousands of hours of footage, reports, and data analyses, all collected by alien observation posts on Earth or from various encounters with humans in space. That's a lot of data for a primitive species, Zara said, her skin rippling. With confusion, Vexor moved forward. Let's start here, he said, selecting a file labeled Proxima Incident. The wall changed to show footage from what appeared to be a space battle. 3 small human ships faced a massive alien vessel. The alien ship was at least 20 times larger than the human vessels. That's a Xenarian dreadnought, Krell said, his voice suddenly serious. The Xenarians are a level 6 military power. What are humans doing engaging with them? The footage continued. The Xenarian ship fired energy weapons at the human vessels. One human ship was hit and started venting atmosphere. Instead of retreating, the damaged ship accelerated directly toward the dreadnought. What are they doing? Zara whispered. The damaged human ship crashed into the Xenarian vessel's weapons array, causing a massive explosion. Both ships were destroyed. The remaining 2 human ships changed formation. The second ship took heavy damage but managed to reach the dreadnought's shield generators. It too crashed deliberately into the larger ship. They're sacrificing themselves, Krell said, his exoskeleton vibrating with shock. With the Xenarian shields down, The last human ship targeted the Dreadnought's command center. Despite being hit multiple times, it maintained its course. The human captain's voice came through the recording, calm and determined. For Earth. The final impact caused a chain reaction that destroyed the Dreadnought. All 3 human ships were lost. The room was silent as the recording ended. Then text appeared on the wall. Human casualties, 147. Xenarian casualties, 2,304. Human ships destroyed, 3. Xenarian ships destroyed, 1. Tactical assessment, decisive human victory. Victory. Zara's skin had turned pale gray. Their entire fleet was destroyed. They won by their standards, Vexor said quietly. They stopped the Xenarian advance toward their colony. Krell's antennae drooped. No Vex would ever consider a strategy with a 100% mortality rate. It's illogical. They watched more footage. A human battalion outnumbered 10-1, fighting with desperate creativity against a Meraxian force. When their advanced weapons failed, they used the environment and improvised weapons. They saw human scientists working, without sleep for days during a crisis involving a spatial anomaly. The humans developed solutions through intuitive leaps that bypassed centuries of methodical research that other species would have required. One recording showed a lone human diplomat negotiating with the notoriously inflexible Grax hegemony. The human used emotional appeals that no logical species would have attempted, and somehow succeeded. I don't understand, Zara said. By every measure, they are technologically inferior to most spacefaring races. Their biology is fragile. They live short lives. Yet they achieve results that should be impossible for them. Krell finished. His earlier mockery was gone. They found another file labeled Earth Observation Natural Disaster Response. The footage showed a building on fire. A human female ran toward the burning structure while others ran away. She's going the wrong way, Krell observed. The footage continued inside the building, captured by a hidden observation drone. The human female crawled through smoke and flames until she reached a small room. Inside were 2 young humans, children, hiding under a bed. She grabbed them both and carried them out just before the building collapsed. More text appeared. Subject suffered 3rd-degree burns on 40% of body. No genetic relationship to rescued juveniles. Subject had never met juveniles prior to rescue. Recovery time, 67 Earth days. She nearly died for offspring that weren't even hers, Zara whispered. No survival advantage, no logical reason. Vexor nodded. This is what I observed during my time on Earth. Their behavior often defies logical prediction. They spent the next 3 hours viewing more footage and reading reports. They saw humans display incredible compassion toward other species. They also saw humans fight with terrifying ferocity when protecting others. One report detailed how a human mining colony was attacked by a predatory species. The miners, with only basic tools, managed to drive off the attackers by setting traps and fighting in ways that seemed suicidal, but ultimately worked. Now I understand the ban, Krell said finally. It's not because humans are primitive. It's because they're unpredictable. Zara's skin showed patterns of deep thought. My people evaluate all actions based on mathematical survival probability. We would never consider a strategy with less than a 70% survival chance. Humans routinely accept much lower odds, Vexor added. Sometimes 0. Krell's antennae twitched. And that makes them dangerous, Zara finished, but also valuable, Vexor said. Imagine facing a crisis where all logical solutions have failed. A human might see options we cannot. They continued searching through the archives and found a recent Galactic Council deliberation. The recording showed representatives from 50 major species discussing the human ban. A tall blue alien was speaking. The ban was never meant to be permanent. It was implemented until we could better understand human psychology and develop protocols for safe integration. Based on recent cooperative missions, I believe we are ready to begin lifting restrictions in certain areas. The recording ended with a vote, 37 for lifting partial restrictions, 13 against. They're going to allow humans to join interspecies teams, Krell said. Zara looked troubled. After everything we've seen, is that wise? Vexor's antennae raised slightly. I think it's necessary. The galaxy faces threats that conventional thinking cannot solve. The void flux, the hive mind expansion. We might need human unpredictability. As their access time neared its end, they compiled notes for their class presentation. None of them felt like making jokes anymore. Our classmates won't believe this, Zara said. They will once they see the footage, Krell replied. They left the viewing room changed beings. The primitive humans they had mocked just hours earlier now seemed much more complex and much more significant to the galaxy's future. Vexor was the last to leave. He paused at the door and looked back at the now dark viewing wall. I told you we shouldn't underestimate them, he said softly. But his words held no satisfaction, only concern for what might come next. The next day, Zara, Krell, and Vexor met in Vexor's dormitory. The room was designed for Vex biology, with hard surfaces and mineral-rich nutrient stations. Zara sat on a visitor chair adjusted for her slender form, while Krell stood, his exoskeleton, still buzzing occasionally with nervous energy. None of them had slept well. The images from the classified files kept replaying in their minds. I can't stop thinking about those human ships, Zara said. Her silver skin reflected tiny flickers of the humans' final moments. They knew they would die. Krell's antennae drooped. My species values efficiency above all else. We would consider their actions wasteful. Yet they won. Vexor pointed out. The Xenarian dreadnought was destroyed. The human colony was saved. At what cost? Zara asked. All their ships, all their crews. That's what makes them different, Vexor said. They measure cost differently than we do. The three fell silent for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. We need to organize our presentation, Krell finally said, his practical nature reasserting itself. The class expects us to mock humans. They won't be prepared for what we've learned. Zara's skin rippled with concern. Should we show the Proxima incident footage? We must, Vexor said. It's the clearest example of why humans are banned, and why that ban might be lifted. They spent the next hour selecting clips that demonstrated human unpredictability. The Yeti fire rescue, the diplomatic negotiation, the mining colony defense, and finally the Proxima incident. Something still bothers me, Zara said as they finished. If humans are this unpredictable, this dangerous, why consider lifting the ban? The council voted strongly in favor of it. Vexor's antennae twitched thoughtfully. During my time on Earth, I visited a place called a zoo. Humans keep other Earth species in controlled environments for study and conservation. Your point? Krell asked. One exhibit featured a predator species called wolves. The information panel said wolves were once feared and hunted by humans, but are now protected. Humans learned to respect the wolves' power rather than fear it. Zara's skin showed patterns of understanding. You think the council has decided to respect human unpredictability rather than fear it? Exactly, Vexor said. And perhaps to use it. Use it how? Krell asked. Before Vexor could answer, their communication devices buzzed. Simultaneously, a message from Professor Nix Valen appeared. Class discussion topic changed. Please prepare to address the question. What role should humans play in galactic affairs? Presentation tomorrow. The three exchanged looks. He knows what we found, Zara said. This was the real assignment all along, Krell realized. They worked late into the night refining their presentation and discussing what they had learned. As they worked, they found their views on humans shifting from shock to a grudging respect. In my culture, we believe that all intelligent behavior is predictable, Zara said. Mathematical patterns guide all rational decisions. Humans challenge that belief. The Vex Collective teaches that technological advancement is the true measure of a species' worth, Krell added. But humans achieve results with inferior technology that we couldn't match even with our advanced systems. Vexor nodded. When I first arrived on Earth, I felt superior. By the time I left, I felt humbled. The next day, the lecture hall was full. News of their special assignment had spread, and students from other classes had come to watch. Professor Nix-Valan sat at the front, his 6 eyes blinking with anticipation. When it was their turn, the 3 walked to the front of the room. Krell operated the controls while Zara began their presentation. "We started this assignment believing humans were banned from galactic affairs because they were primitive," she said, her skin glowing with confidence. "We were wrong." A murmur ran through the audience. "Humans are not banned because they are primitive," Vexor continued. "They are banned because they are unpredictable in ways that most galactic species find disturbing." Krell displayed the first clip, the human female running into the burning building to save children who weren't hers. Humans routinely risk their lives for others without calculating survival probabilities, Zara explained. This behavior extends beyond their family groups to strangers, and even to other species. They showed more clips. With each one, the audience grew quieter. The joking atmosphere from the previous class was gone. "But unpredictability has advantages," Krell said. "Humans innovate under pressure. They find solutions that logical progression would miss." They showed footage of human scientists making intuitive leaps, of human soldiers adapting to impossible situations. "Most importantly," Vexor said, "humans do not follow the same evolutionary logic that unified our galactic community." The room was completely silent now. Even Professor Nix-Valan sat perfectly still. "Where we seek optimization, they embrace chaos as a tool," Zara continued. "Where we calculate survival probabilities, they follow ethical principles that sometimes demand self-sacrifice." Finally, they played the Proxima incident footage. Many students gasped as they watched the human ships deliberately crashing into the dreadnought. One floating student sank so low in their anti-gravity bubble that they nearly touched the floor. When the footage ended, Krell stepped forward. "The humans have a concept called heroism," he said. "It means choosing to risk everything for something. They value more than their own lives. There is no direct translation for this concept in any of our languages." Zara's skin rippled with emotion. "The ban exists because humans are the only species we've encountered who consistently choose honor, loyalty, and self-sacrifice over self-preservation. This makes them both the most valuable allies and the most dangerous adversaries in the galaxy," Vexor concluded. There was no applause when they finished. The room remained silent, every student processing what they had seen. Professor Nix-Valan finally broke the silence. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep approval in his species. "Excellent work," he said. "You have discovered the truth that most species take years to understand about humans." He turned to address the entire class. "The Galactic Council is not just considering lifting the human ban. They are creating a new type of mixed species exploration team, with humans included." Excited whispers spread through the room. "These teams will face the most challenging frontiers in our galaxy," the professor continued. "The void flux, the dark energy zones, the quantum rifts, places where logical, predictable approaches have failed." He looked back at Krell, Zara, and Vexor. "They will need team members who understand humans, who can bridge the gap between logical species and them." The 3 students exchanged glances, suddenly understanding where this was leading. After class, Professor Nix-Valan asked Krell, Zara, and Vexor to stay behind. The other students filed out, many still looking shocked by what they had seen. Some gave the 3 presenters curious glances as they left. When the room was empty, the professor closed the door with a wave of one of his 4 arms. "Your presentation exceeded my expectations," he said. "You understood the true meaning behind the assignment. You wanted us to change our views on humans," Zara said, her skin reflecting a pattern of realization. Professor Nix-Valan's 6 eyes blinked in agreement. "Most species take decades to move past their initial impression of humans. You did it in days." "You've worked with humans," Vexor said. "It wasn't a question. For 20 years, the professor confirmed. "I was part of the first scientific exchange program with Earth. Like you, I began by thinking them primitive." He paused. "I left with a very different opinion." Krell's antennae twitched with curiosity. "What changed your mind?" I was on a research vessel studying a quantum rift. Something went wrong. Our ship was caught in a reality fluctuation. The professor's voice grew quiet. By all logical calculations, everyone on board should have died. What happened? Zara asked. The human engineer ignored the evacuation order. He manually realigned the quantum shields while exposed to lethal levels of radiation. The professor's skin darkened with the memory. When I asked him why as he lay dying, he said he had a family waiting for him at home. But so did everyone else on the ship. The three students exchanged glances, understanding the connection to what they had seen in the archives. The council created the ban after the Battle of Proxima. Professor Nixavalan continued. They feared human unpredictability, but over time they've come to see its value. The galaxy faces threats that logical approaches cannot solve. The void flux, Vexor said. The hive mind expansion. Precisely. The professor activated a small holographic projector. An official-looking document appeared in the air. The council is forming 10 mixed species teams. Each will include at least one human member. The teams will explore the most dangerous and unpredictable regions of space. Krell's exoskeleton vibrated with sudden understanding. And you want us to join these teams. You three have shown the ability to understand and appreciate human thinking, the professor said. That makes you ideal candidates. But we're still students, Zara protested, her skin flickering with surprise. You would finish your education in the field with special dispensation, Professor Nixavalan explained. The teams launch in 3 months. Vexor looked thoughtful. Would we meet the human members before then? Yes. Your training would begin next week. The professor looked at each of them in turn. This is entirely voluntary. The missions will be dangerous. The three students were silent for a moment. Then Krell spoke. If we refuse, we remain safe in the academy, he said. We finish our education normally and pursue careers in research or diplomacy. Yes, the professor confirmed. And if we accept, Krell continued, we face unknown dangers, working with unpredictable beings who sometimes choose self-sacrifice over survival. Also, yes. Krell's antennae stood straight up in decision. I volunteer. Zara and Vexor looked at him in surprise. You're the last one I expected to volunteer, Zara said, her skin reflecting confusion. Krell's exoskeleton buzzed with what might have been embarrassment. Yesterday, I would have refused. I believed the Vex way was superior, but after seeing those humans in the Proxima incident, he paused. I want to understand why they did it, and perhaps learn if I could do the same. Zara's skin rippled as she considered. My people believe all behavior follows mathematical patterns. If humans truly operate outside those patterns, then meeting them is the greatest opportunity for new knowledge. She looked at Professor Nixavalan. I volunteer as well. Everyone turned to Vexor. He had been quiet, as usual. I already met humans during my exchange program, he said slowly. I thought I understood them, but after seeing the classified footage, I realize I only scratched the surface. He nodded. I volunteer. Professor Nixavalan's 6 eyes blinked in approval. Excellent. Report to Docking Bay 7 next Monday. You'll be transported to the training facility on Outpost Theta. As they left the professor's office, none of them spoke. The weight of their decision hung in the air between them. Finally, as they reached the main hall, Zara asked, Are we making a mistake? Possibly, Krell admitted. But I find myself curious. Yesterday I mocked humans for their primitiveness. Today I'm willing to risk my life to work with them. His antennae twitched. That's a significant change in just one day. It's what humans do to you, Vexor said. They change how you see the universe. In the days that followed, they spent hours in the Academy archives, studying everything they could about human behavior. They watched footage of human art, music, sports, and social interactions. They reviewed human military tactics and scientific breakthroughs. They're so inconsistent, Krell said after watching humans help each other after a natural disaster. The same species that created weapons of mass destruction will risk their lives to save strangers. Perhaps that's their strength, Vexer suggested. They can be anything the situation requires. That makes them dangerous, Zara pointed out. Yes, Vexer agreed, but it also makes them exactly what the galaxy needs right now. On their last night at the Academy, they gathered in Vexer's room again. Tomorrow they would leave for Outpost Theta to begin their training with the human team members. I'm nervous, Zara admitted, her skin showing patterns of anxiety. Me too, Krell said, surprising them both with his honesty. My species values certainty. There is nothing certain about what we're about to do. Vexer looked at his two companions. Do you know what a human would say in this situation? They both looked at him curiously. They have a saying. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. He paused. I think we're being very human right now. Krell's antennae twitched with amusement. Is that a compliment or an insult? A week ago, it would have been an insult, Vexer said. Now, I'm not so sure. As they packed their belongings and prepared for the journey ahead, each of them reflected on how quickly their views had changed, from mockery to respect, from fear to curiosity. They had no idea what awaited them at Outpost Theta. They didn't know what dangers they would face alongside their human teammates. But they had all seen the footage. They had all witnessed what humans were capable of when faced with impossible odds, and somewhere deep inside, each of them wondered if they could ever show the same courage, the same willingness to sacrifice, the same unpredictable brilliance that had made the galaxy both fear and need humanity. The transport ship to Outpost Theta was larger than Krell, Zara, and Vexer had expected. It had to be. It was designed to accommodate beings from 20 different species. The three former students found themselves among a diverse group of scientists, diplomats, and specialists from across the galaxy. I've never seen so many different species in one place, Zara whispered, her skin reflecting patterns of both excitement and nervousness. Look there, Krell said, pointing with one arm. Those must be the humans. In the center of the main gathering area stood 4 humans, 3 males and 1 female. They were speaking with a tall, tentacled being who appeared to be in charge of the transport. They look so ordinary, Zara said. After everything we've seen, I expected them to appear more dangerous, Vexor suggested. Remarkable, she corrected. A voice came over the ship's communication system. All personnel, please proceed to the briefing hall. Orientation begins in 10 minutes. The 3 made their way to a large room filled with seats of various designs to accommodate different physiologies. They found spots suitable for their species and waited as the room filled. The tentacled being entered and moved to the front. Welcome to Project Convergence. I am Director Moltar. You have all been selected for your expertise and your demonstrated ability to work across species boundaries. The director's tentacles gestured to a large view screen behind him. It displayed an image of swirling darkness with strange fractal patterns of light within it. This is the Void Flux. It appeared at the edge of the Orion Arm 3 months ago and has been expanding. Conventional probes cannot penetrate it. Energy readings are inconsistent with known phenomena. We have 10 teams and 10 approaches to exploring and understanding this threat. Krell's antennae twitched with sudden tension. This was more serious than they had realized, Director Moltar continued. Each team has been carefully balanced to combine different kinds of intelligence and problem-solving approaches. His gaze swept the room. For the first time, this includes human members. Some murmurs spread through the assembly. Not everyone was comfortable with the change in policy. Team assignments are being sent to your personal devices now. You will have 3 weeks of training before deployment. Get to know your teammates, learn to think together. Your lives may depend on it. Krell checked his device as it buzzed with new information. We're on Team 7, he told the others. His antennae suddenly stood straight up. With 2 human members. Zara's skin flickered with surprise. 2? Most teams only have 1. Our task is to study the quantum resonance patterns within the flux, Vexor read from his device. We'll be piloting a specially modified research vessel closer to the phenomenon than any other team. Why would they assign us, former students, to such a critical mission? Zara wondered. Because of this, said a voice behind them. They turned to see one of the humans approaching. He was of average height for his species, with short brown hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Sorry to interrupt. I'm Alan Gray, quantum physicist. I'll be working with you on Team 7. The three aliens stood, each performing their species' version of a formal greeting. It is an honor to meet you, Vexor said, his antennae dipping in respect. Alan smiled. Likewise. And to answer your question, he nodded toward Zara. You three were assigned to our team because of your presentation at the Academy. The one about why humans were banned. You know about that? Krell asked, his exoskeleton vibrating with surprise. Everyone knows about it, Alan said. It was the first time anyone had so quickly and accurately assessed both the dangers and benefits of working with humans. The council was impressed. But we're not experts, Zara protested. We're barely finished with our education. Sometimes fresh perspectives are more valuable than experience, said another voice. A human female joined them. She was taller than Alan, with dark skin and closely cropped hair. I'm Dr. Layla Wright, xenobiologist and team leader. Dr. Wright has worked with non-human species for 15 years, Alan explained. She's one of the few humans with extensive cross-species collaboration experience. Layla nodded. And even I had trouble getting approval to lead a team. The council is taking a big risk including humans at all. They're taking an even bigger risk putting two of us on one team. Why two? Vexor asked. Because our mission has the highest probability of failure, Layla said bluntly. We'll be penetrating deeper into the void flux than any other team. The council decided that warranted. She paused, looking for the right word. Human unpredictability. Alan finished with a slight smile. Krell and Zara exchanged glances. The implications were clear. Their mission was considered so dangerous that logical approaches might not be enough. They needed the kind of thinking that had allowed 3 small human ships to defeat a Xenarian dreadnought. Come, Layla said. Let me introduce you to the rest of the team. We have a Haldraxian mathematical savant, a Tsekmor navigation specialist, and a Quarren quantum engineer. As they moved through the room, Vexor spoke quietly to the 2 humans. May I ask, do you know about the Proxima incident? Both humans stopped walking. A shadow crossed Layla's face. Yes, she said softly. The crews of those ships are considered heroes on Earth. Would you have made the same choice? Krell asked, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Alan and Layla looked at each other. Then Alan spoke. I'd like to think so. But no one knows what they're capable of until the moment arrives. That's what makes us unpredictable, Layla added. Even to ourselves. Over the next 3 weeks, the team trained together daily. At first, there were misunderstandings and cultural clashes. The Haldraxian mathematician, Ved, could not understand why the humans sometimes relied on intuition rather than calculations. The Tsekmor navigator, Syl, was uncomfortable with the humans' casual attitude toward their own safety, but gradually, they began to form connections. They learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. They developed protocols for combining their different approaches to problems. And most importantly, they began to trust each other. The night before launch, Krell, Zara, and Vexor sat together in the observation lounge. Through the large viewport, they could see the swirling mass of the void flux in the far distance. Tomorrow we fly into that, Zara said, her skin showing patterns of both fear and excitement. With humans, Krell added. His tone had changed since that first class when he had mocked the very idea of human competence. I've been studying Earth, history more deeply, Vexor said. They have a term for what we're doing. They call it taking a leap of faith. Faith? Zara asked.